Welcome everybody to another edition of the Locker Room Readout / Fear of the North. I am your gracious host by the name of Irie Harris, joined by the best co-host there is, Sapphire Blue. Love that sound. I know y'all do too. And Renaissance man himself, Chris Murray.
I'm all right. I'm not feeling too good myself. I'm all right.
For
you
those,
young, for older, go ahead.
no, go ahead. I want to hear it. This for the who? For my age demographic that don't know this, that don't know that song.
That's the great Joe Cocker, a guy from England who sounds like he was one of the brothers and whatnot. That's why I liked him. You know, I was actually trying to play that song on my guitar today and everything. I was practicing that song. You know, I used to be able to play it on acoustic because it was a simpler lyric, simple, chords and stuff. But I like that song because that's how my voice was all this week.
Oh,
I was taught it was all raspy and stuff.
Speaking of music, for those that obviously they can't see because they're listening to us, but your T-shirts, Steely Dan, Asia, I love it. Right. Terrific choice of a T-shirt. Do you have a favorite song off the album?
Off that album, I can't. I like Peg, although my favorite one is I Got the News. I got the news because they had that little jazz thing with them. Man, they were. I think they were often miscategorized as a rock band, but they were like, I would say, pop jazz fusion. They were like fusion. And exactly. they had that soul with them, and they utilized all types of classic jazz musicians for that album. There's a documentary somewhere on Amazon Prime. You guys see how they did that album. It was really good to do a documentary.
I like that. Sapphire, do you have a favorite song of the classic album?
I mean, I think wasn't Deacon Blues on there?
Oh, yep. Yeah.
That's old school. You so impressed me, YG. You are so well-rounded. Chris, I really think that we're going to have to highly scrutinize the fiancé. I think we got to make sure she passed our litmus test because he's special.
He doesn't have a girlfriend yet.
Wait,
I'm thinking ahead. I'm just thinking ahead. I'm the typical
thinking ahead. Okay. You're thinking ahead. Okay.
Hi, Mom. We're just joking.
Well,
anyway.
I can see your mother calling you up now. Oh, Irene, who is she?
That's right. I started all kinds of controversy, didn't I?
Yeah.
For those that get it, I'm gonna tell her Rollo Tomasi. If you know, you know. All right.
Okay.
We got a lot to dive into today. WNBA finals. Finals matchup set. AFC North football. That's our niche. That's what we talk about. That's what we dive into. But we definitely gotta dive into the women's side a bit. And the finals is here and it's ready. It's starting up. Actually, by the time that this recording goes up, game one will have already happened because that will take place on October 3rd, 8 p.m. But nonetheless, we can still talk about the matchup and what we think because it's a 7-game series. First time, by the way, in WNBA history that now we have a 7-game series in the finals at that too. Wonderful. Las Vegas Aces, a 2 seed versus the 4 seed Phoenix Mercury. Are we surprised that these two teams got this far to the finals? Sapphire, start with you.
I'm not. I mean, Phoenix, they really come together. As bad asthma as Alyssa Thomas is, you got Satu Sabli, you got Makani, and your North Philly girl. I mean, they are. That's just to name a few. They're deep too, and they're physical. They push the pace. They got great shooters. They play decent defense. I think this is really going to be a great series, and I'm tilting towards Phoenix way.
Well,
really, Phoenix. Wait, go ahead, Chris.
Phoenix is hot right now, and that's a logical choice to go. But I like the experience of Asia Wilson and the Aces. They know what it means to win a championship. But although I will say that the Mercury, gave it to Minnesota in that series. I mean, they just went in there and stole they stole that series and stole their hearts from them too, because they were determined. They were not to be denied in that series.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Right quick, I do want to agree with Chris, but also remind him that the Mercury was pretty banged up for the majority of the season.
Yeah,
Now they're
yeah,
healthy.
They did, yeah.
Now we're seeing what they're looking like healthy.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
see,
think it's going to
that's
be a
no,
good
no,
team.
you're probably right about that. I mean, a lot of times, well, I'm just hoping a certain team that I know gets healthy soon, but
You always get it in. Doggone,
How do
you
we get
always
to
get
it
it
this
in.
early? How?
It's just oozing out
How?
of him. Oozing out of him.
Why?
Yeah,
What?
by the way,
because
what's
I'm
the
trying to
record?
find hope. I'm trying to keep
What's the
hope
record
alive.
down there in Baltimore?
1-3.
Does that sound familiar to
Dang.
you, Irie, or just something just didn't slip my mind? Isn't like
It
the
does,
bomb?
but it's segment 2 and 3. Segment 1, WNBA. Now, Sapphire, you mentioned Phoenix. You lean towards them winning the finals in how many games? 5,
Oh,
7, a sweep? What we
I think
thinking?
7. I wouldn't be surprised if it went 7. Like this is going to
Okay,
be a real battle royale. To Chris's point, like they have
it
great players
is.
on both sides. You know, the Aces have the experience; they've been there. I mean, for me, this is why we see the conversation happening about paying these professional athletes. The quality of that product now compared to 30 years ago, night and day. These
I'm
women
watching
can
that series.
ball.
I'm going to watch that series.
Yeah.
I'm going to definitely watch that series. Okay,
Uh,
so
I totally understand and see what you mean. It definitely with Phoenix because what I love about them, they're fast. They run
Mhm.
fast. They operate like a well-oiled AAU machine, and I enjoy that. And it reeks. And not only that, they're not trying to adjust to the opposing team. They're forcing their opposing team to play their style ball, to play up to their speed, and that's how they've gone this far. That is their brand of ball, and I love it. Lisa Thomas, terrific all around game. Right, no Gilly Coop. Like they're so together and the cohesion is there. And so I do believe it's going to be a tough series. Now, however, when talking about the Aces and it went down to 5 in the last round when going up against the Indiana Fever. Now, some people would probably, especially those casuals who heard about Caitlin Clark being out for the season, missing the playoffs, probably thought, oh, well, Indiana's done. Nope, Indiana almost got to the finals. They came out to a decisive game 5 in the semis versus the Aces, but then the Aces took over. Now, let me ask you this, because obviously we have Asia Wilson doing her thing with, I want to say, 34, 35 points on the night. However, does it say more about Becky Hammond and questioning of her coaching versus a favorite team without Caitlin Clark, or more so how good of a coach Stephanie White is, and if people have underestimated her a bit in recent times? Chris, I'll start with you.
so we're talking about the Indiana Fever and whatnot. Indiana, the head coach of the Indiana Fever did a good job of carrying that team without Caitlin Clark. That has to be, I mean, just to think what will happen with Caitlin Clark. But you know something? I'm wondering if all of Caitlin Clark's, fans and stands were appreciative of the effort of that team without her and everything. Because if they're truly fans, not just of the Indiana Fever, I mean, Aaliyah Boston and some of those players that were on that team led that team to that point, to the Western semifinals. And you got to give them credit. It was a great coaching job by their head coach.
Okay, Sapphire.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I think for me, it's more about the players, the other players on that team, right? And I
Fair.
say to you, if Kelsey Mitchell didn't get injured, I wonder about the outcome of that game. Like, because I saw when I watched it, it seemed like she was hobbling before the apparent injury, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think she gave them like 20 points a game this year, average about 20 points a game. Think about Odyssey Sims. I mean, YG, you pointed her out. When
Uh,
they picked her
Ba-
up. Go ahead.
Baylor legend.
hmm hmm you got Aaliyah Boston on that squad, right? So, I mean, definitely next year, I could see the Indiana Fever with Caitlin Clark back being a favorite to win it all. They came that close with not all the wheels in motion. So, I say again that the quality of the product of the WNBA, these women can shoot, they can dribble, like it's like we're watching professionals play the game. So yeah, that would be my answer. It was really more about the
Exactly.
quality of athletes on the squad.
Yeah, I think I would say so as well. But
What
you
you know
gotta
what?
give Stephanie White, you gotta give her the coach, give her due for putting that team, keeping that team together, and all that, and finding the right balance of players. And I hope that people who are fans of the Indiana Fever will appreciate all that team, including Clayton Clark. I mean, this is not an attack. I'm not attacking. I think Caitlin Clark is a hell of a player. If they have her, I think they're in the finals, in my opinion. But I'm just saying that when I
Okay.
hear people, it's a funny thing. No one's talking about women's basketball. Everybody thinks it's just all about Caitlin Clark, and it isn't. It's just people need to appreciate all the other players in that league, regardless of race and all that. There's some great players in this league.
There are. There are. And real quick, while speaking on the quality of the players, the one player that really popped out to me was Jackie Young, point guard of the Aces, first player in WNBA playoff history to finish the game with over 30 points and 10 assists and zero turnovers. I don't think people understand how ridiculous it is to do that. To have that kind of stat line for her, it was 32 and 10, and still within ball protection and keeping the ball safe. Terrific job. I think the Aces take this, but I'll say in six. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a close game every time, but I'm going to give it to them in six. I'm going to give them their experience being the emerging factor in this.
Yeah, I was gonna. That's why I'm picking Vegas. I'll say Phoenix, the way they fought in their last series, will fight them to 7. They're not gonna give it to them. I put it that way.
Yeah, the
Well,
backcourt. Go ahead, Zaf.
no, I was going to say, add on to that, this is going to be a real series. I mean, the distance between the cities is like, what, 300 miles?
Yeah,
So this is literally, you could almost say home court for each team. So in terms of
yeah,
fatigue and travel, it's going to be a great series.
straight West Coast. Now, real quick, as we come down, last couple of few minutes of this segment, there's also some other news in the WNBA. Relating to, because we did talk about Phoenix beating Minnesota. A lot was going on in that series, and even afterwards, ahead of Minnesota's closing sessions after the season was over, star player Napheesa Collier took a moment to make a statement and call out Commissioner Kathy Engelbert. Now, there were a number of bars to take from this, but we'll just highlight some of the more interesting parts that have really popped out within her calling her out. Within, speaking of the union and treatment of players, officiating, a number of different components and qualities. There's one part where she had called out Engelbert for apparently telling her that players should be on their knees and thanking their lucky stars, the young stars of this, for the media rights deal that she got them. And when talking about the complaining, apparently Engelbert told Collier that only the losers complain about the refs. And uh, and so that was very interesting there. And then even when talking about Caitlin Clark, if I recall, a point in which she said that like Caitlin should be grateful for pretty much for the platform that they've built for her, and and the fact that she's making 6 million outside of that as well. When you guys heard of this and caught wind of this, what were your first impressions of this? And Sapphire, I'll start with you.
There's a saying, it just goes like this. She put her foot in her mouth. She put her foot in her mouth. I don't know how it's going to work out. I'm talking about the commissioner.
Mm-hmm.
When you bash
Mm-hmm.
your the primary vehicle in your organization that's making it successful, vis-a-vis
Mm-hmm.
Caitlin Clark, I just can't see how there's going to be a positive outcome, right? Number
Mm-hmm.
one. Number two, it's just, I always tell you guys, they need to pay these athletes. How many times have you heard me say that? Pay
All the
them.
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
These arenas are packed. And I'm talking about even before the WNBA playoffs started. They're packed.
Mm-hmm.
So I want the best for all athletes, even going down to high school, y'all. That's just where the space I've been living in for decades,
Mm-hmm.
right? But
Yep.
this was just, it was just really unfortunate. I don't know how that commissioner survives, but props to, Miss Collier for doing her job. As I think she's the VP of the Players Association on the
Yeah.
W side.
Right.
Like, she represented her constituency and she did it well.
And you have to, and players have to stand up for their constituency because I remember over the years when unions were formed in the league. I mean, the media and everybody always treated the people who were fighting for their rights badly. From when Marvin Miller came with the baseball players and helped to start free agency, Kurt Flood, and all that, up until when John Mackey was the Baltimore Colts, was the first head of the NFL Players Association. And they've always and it goes into now where women this fight in women's for fighting for pay also kind of is related to another struggle in terms of the of college basketball, when women have to fight for better facilities, the same types of facilities and situations as the men. And to me, and Donald Trump's horrible conversation with the military, notwithstanding about equality and all that, which is why, I am proud of Napheesa Collins, Caitlin Clark, and all those players for speaking up, for their rights as players, and
Right on.
and at the end of the day, you got to have equality. There is a place, Donald Trump, for equality and whatnot, and we have to stop marginalizing. The problem with this country is that we marginalize everybody. We marginalize, the blacks. We marginalize gay people. We marginalize women. We marginalize everybody. And at the end of the day, and then folk want to get mad if you fight back. It's always been the case with those in the 1% when it comes down to these leagues. You know what? If it wasn't for the players, nobody comes to a ballpark to see you sit up in the press box, enjoying a mint julep. This is water, but I had. But the thing is, at the end of the day, workers have to fight for themselves. You got to fight these big companies because they got the money. It's not like they ain't got the money. They can get it if they want to get it. To quote my man in Superfly, you can get it if you want to get it. So my thing at the end of the day, I applaud Napheesa Collier for speaking out and telling it like it is.
Okay. That's it.
It wasn't clapping for me.
All
Chris
right.
Murray, y'all. Chris Murray.
Chris Murray. All right. You guys want to talk some NFL?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do it.
I'm sorry.
AFC North. What a division. What a time. What a time to be alive in this division. We had decided, and I didn't come up with this. I appreciate Sapphire coming up with this in terms of going by the standings in the division. So currently, that means Pittsburgh, who goes into their Week 5 bye week, are first place, 3-1, and will be the first team that we speak about in the division. Pittsburgh Steelers. We're over in Ireland. God me, Father. That was bad. That was bad. Hold on. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I had to take a moment. Oh, that was bad. Oh no. I saw Rob Roy. I thought I was better than this. All right. Let me
You saw
let's put it.
Rob Roy. Okay.
That's a terrific movie, Chris. That's
Okay.
Would did you
I,
prefer
I, I used to have a Rob Roy shirt years ago, like like a regular shirt, like it said Rob Roy in the tag. I don't know.
did you were you more of a Braveheart fan?
Oh, I love
Freedom!
Braveheart. I
That was
love
it.
Braveheart. Braveheart was my movie and all that. I love that movie.
I love
I
it. All right.
love that movie.
Well, yeah. I'm sure Pittsburgh does as well too, since they were over there and they did beat Minnesota. It was a game in which they were up for quite a bit within large margin. Minnesota really had to come back, within the final quarter. But all in all, Pittsburgh ended the game with a walking out 24-21 win. They are 3-1. Now, here is the one thing that I think about when it pertains to this Pittsburgh squad going into the bye week. None of their 3 wins have been double-digit wins.
No.
Each time it's been down to one score game. It's been down to the wire. Their one loss versus Seattle, that was by 14 points. These wins are not coming in dominating form. Somehow, someway, these teams are sticking around. Chris, I'll start with you, and I know you have a lot to dive into. But is that something to if you were a Pittsburgh fan, is that something that you would be worried about going into the week 5 bye week?
I would say that that's true. That is something for them to worry about because some of those games, like New England committing all those turnovers, some of those games that got lucky, and like I said, the Jets not necessarily executing when they had a chance to, and then the Vikings, came up short. They've been lucky. I mean, I wouldn't say luck. Well, it's kind of luck, but you can't win. At one point they're going to meet a team that's going to come at them in with all cylinders. And not to sound like I'm hating, although some people may say that. Pittsburgh has had kind of a what playoff contenders have they played? They beat the Jets, who didn't make the playoffs last year, lost to Seattle, a team that I think made the playoffs.
They're usually playoff. Like I want to say, yeah, they're usually up there. I know they had a winning record with the playoffs, but they're up there. Yeah.
But they have a soft schedule. It was what I'm saying is that they have a relatively soft schedule, and as opposed to some other teams having to play, the AFC champion,
the heavyweights of the league.
Yeah, the heavyweights of the league and all that. So the thing is, but give them credit. They in first place. Gotta give them credit. Gotta give them credit. They're in first place, and that's fine. That's fine with me. But I think in the back of a lot of their fans' minds, they're wondering, when it's coming. And they have Aaron Rodgers, so I'm not going to say it's luck and whatnot. Well, not completely not say it, but the thing is that they're there.
Talk about it.
I think at times they have been lucky. And they're lucky right now in the sense that
there we are.
They're lucky in the sense that both Cincinnati and Baltimore don't know who they are anymore because of injuries, and that Cleveland as well, And so I think at the end of the day, right now, the Steelers are where they are. Their record is what they say. They're in first place, and you gotta give them credit for it, but. I'm kind of, if I'm a Steelers fan, I'm a little skeptical about the team, but you're in first place. It's early in the season. I've seen stranger things happen.
Okay. All right. That's one way to put it. Sapphire, any thoughts on that? Just within Pittsburgh's first 4 games so far, impressions? Do you still feel the same way you did about them being good before the season started? Go away.
Yes, I do. But I want to press stop and rewind. I love it when Chris has to kiss that Steelers ring. I love it. I love it. Listen.
I hate it. I do not like kissing that ring.
Why not, Chris?
It's real. Listen, they're for real. And now they have a quarterback that can put the ball in the playmaker's hands, right? It's about that timing and that rhythm. And they have that in 40-plus-year-old Aaron Rodgers. Okay.
L-U-C.
No. They're protecting him. They're coming together as an offense. I mean, look, I'm looking at my notes here. You had Gainwell, who stepped in for the starter. He rushed for 99 yards and 2 TDs. Okay. They ran the ball well. A number of their first downs were run plays. That says a lot about their O-line. I'm just saying. Rodgers connected with DK on that 80-yard TD. Look at Chris. He's like, yeah, okay, all right. It's painful. It's painful. I want you to know. I know it's painful, but this is real. The numbers don't lie, right? And Rodgers continues to be efficient. Look, overall they ran for less and passed for less, but they won that game. And their defense. Hello. Their defense. I'm just saying.
Ain't been tested yet, but you're right. I can't say nothing so far. They are what their record is, and all that. They all right and
Well,
everything.
I love that
you
this is
know,
being recorded. I love that, Chris. I love it. It's
oh my
painful.
goodness.
Three,
You know
four
what?
takeaways. Come on. I mean, what do we say? Irie, bring it. Bring it.
I did have a question when speaking about the quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, that is, because the one component that I think we all agreed on, whether or not we like to talk about this team or think about this team at all, Chris, is that we understood and we agreed that they had a quarterback in Aaron Rodgers who, despite his age, will let that thing fly and second guess a question later after the fact. They have not done much of that so far through the first 4 weeks. He's only thrown 10 passes that have traveled 20 or more yards downfield. Amongst qualifying quarterbacks per Pro Football Focus, that's only 23rd. And not just that, but then in their offense, we're talking about moving the ball, really moving it downfield. You talk about their run plays. Like Rodgers is averaging the fewest completed air yards at 2.7 to be exact. So is that something else that could be exposed eventually, or if it ain't broke, don't fix it? Because you ask me, I would prefer to see a bit more deep shots.
Interesting. That's so fascinating that you say that because hearing that is real. Numbers don't lie. And then clearly, they don't need that from Aaron Rodgers. At the end of the day, it's about dubs. And
Yeah,
the Steelers have an exceptionally balanced team. They're doing more with less. And perhaps as their season moves forward, and depending on the teams that they play, they may need to call him to do those things. But right now, listen, if it's a half a point or a point, a dub is a dub.
Oh,
This team is real.
Chris, you just love hearing this. I know. I know. It's
I'm,
recorded. Don't worry. Come back to
that's
it whenever you
okay.
feel. And
Yeah, I know. Like I said, it's like paper cuts. It's a thousand. It's cuts with a lot of paper cuts. Okay, I get it. No, I mean,
now look,
I'll
this
give,
is just
I'll
good.
give,
This is good for the
I'll give them
show.
credit. I will give them, credit. I mean, I'm never one now. If the facts are there, I'm not like a certain leader who would fire somebody because the facts didn't go their way. The facts are there. Okay, I'm not one of those people. I mean, I ain't that delusional about everything because I know that that the team that I root for is not doing well. I mean, and all that, and you gotta and like I say, when the other team is. I mean, I'm not hating. I'm just saying now. Part of me is journalist, and then part of me, the two warring
Oh yeah,
sides,
that's it.
because I
Yeah,
hate
that's
is the
natural.
fan. I hate that team. The other one says, no, no, no. I have two personalities. No,
Well,
that you have
you,
to look at the numbers. You have to look at how they're playing and all that other stuff. But there's another part
yeah,
of me
the
that's
eye
not just
test, Chris. The eye never lies. The eye test. You
yeah.
know this.
The eyes never lie. But then
It's the
there's
eye
Mr.
Chico.
Hines says, but I hate the daggone Steelers. I hate them. I hate them.
Oh my
I just
goodness.
hope they just jump off of a roof. You know,
Of course.
that is the fan. That is the fan inside of my dual personality, which
Yeah.
means I probably need counseling. But the thing is, everything
It
the
is what it
thing
is.
is, it is
It
what
is
it is.
it is what it
And
is.
right now they're in first place,
They
and you
are.
got to give them credit, and you got to give them credit for it and everything. They won the games where the Bengals, Ravens, and Browns have not, and
Well,
so
you know what? It's so funny you mention that because when you mentioned the word delusional, I felt that really would best describe the next team that we're talking about. What a segue that is. Cincinnati Bengals are somehow, some way, still
Man.
second in the division at 2-2. Look at that. Everybody can't see. You can only hear the tone shifted when I mentioned that team. The
Yeah.
jungle, the jungle's finest. What interesting uniforms that is. But yes,
today,
they 2-2. They've gotten their butt whooped the last two games. The most recent one versus a Monday night blowout loss to Denver, 28-3. Look, when I mentioned the word delusional, that is of no disrespect to backup quarterback Jake Browning. It's not at all. But in terms of this team that they've invested, a lot of money into on both sides of the ball, a legit stable quarterback is needed. Is Zach Taylor delusional for not trying to make a move, at least as far as we know right now, for another quarterback out there? Somebody maybe on the limbs, somebody on the couch that could be better for this offense than Browning right now? Is he delusional? I think so. He's reiterated his confidence in Browning. I would say so. Sapphire, we'll start with you.
I mean, I don't know that he's in a position to make that call. I don't know how the Bengals
His
organization
job is on the line. He better be at their door every freaking morning.
well, there's a lot of levels to that though. And don't get me going with my conspiracy theorist situation. But maybe his hands are tied for whatever reasons. But I would absolutely agree with you. I wouldn't have waited. That first game with Jake Browning, okay, we need help. What are we doing? What's the plan? I'd be like knocking on the door, kicking the door in. What are we doing? What are we doing? Because we know there's someone listed at QB3 up here in the north that probably would love to have that opportunity. But let me save that.
See, I wasn't even gonna get to
Yes, I
say,
did.
bro. I was
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
You all
how.
just you all just use the term delusional and whatnot. I'm gonna use another word in that situation. Incompetent.
Mm.
I'm gonna use the term incompetent. You mean with the receivers that they have? You mean to tell even and you keep putting Jake Browning in a bad situation. How about run the football? How about
Mm.
how about putting him in a situation where he can win, where he can make some plays and all that. That I think that the coaching for that team is atrocious. It's absolutely terrible because lots of times we're going to see a lot of times when you have a backup. I know last year Eagles had a backup replacing Jalen Hurts last year, and they put their backup in the quarter, and they put him in a position where you got enough veteran presence on that team to make a play. It is disgraceful. It is disgraceful that offense
Oh
with
no.
T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and some veteran running backs. You mean to tell me, and for a guy who likes that whole West Coast thing, you mean to tell me you can't come up with plays to get that team going? But it also says that the defense is equally as bad. And and the thing about it, that coaching staff, if there's ever a coaching staff in the state of Ohio that needs to go, is that one in
No, no, no.
Cincinnati.
I
No,
wouldn't say
see,
all that, bro.
how do we do this?
Don't do that.
on
How?
both
Don't do
on
that.
both
Chris,
on both ends,
Don't
both
do
of
that.
those coaching staffs in the
Mm-mm.
state of Ohio,
Thank you.
they
Thank
stink.
you.
They're
Thank you
awful.
for
you
redacting that
could just said
statement.
he should
Because
go
I'm about to get in
out.
the
They
car, drive
both
on
the
down that
whole,
turnpike, and knock on your front
you
door.
know,
He has
like
to
I
bring
said,
up the state.
Mm-mm.
they
Mm-mm.
need to go down to Columbus and get that guy and what because that's the only team in that state
Oh,
that's winning anything.
shoot.
Mhm, mhm,
And I hate
mhm.
to say that, and I hate to say that, but going back to the Bengals, you
Mhm.
mean and Cincinnati's not that far from Columbus, but the thing is you have a backup quarterback every year. It was Tanner McKee for the Eagles. Okay, you have a backup. You're not gonna, you gotta protect him. Okay, you gotta protect him and his self-confidence. He's got to get the ball out to guys. You got enough playmakers on that team to really keep that off. Am I right? Tell me I'm wrong about that.
No, no, I'm riding with you, and I'm actually riding with you about the head coach. I mean,
Yeah.
listen, they had what was it? They were penalized 11 times in that
Yeah.
game for
Hmm.
65 yards.
Yeah.
Like
Correct.
no rhythm. They crossed midfield one time and never crossed midfield again.
And they spent millions on those wide receivers.
Yes, yes, yes.
You mean to,
So
but you got to protect him. You got to make him get some easy first down throws. Excuse me, some
mhm,
easy first down throws and some play and run the football a little bit. Let him operate off of play action. Don't throw him out to the wolves like that because you'll mess with the kid's confidence. You got to protect your backup in that situation. You're not going to do what you did with Joe Burrow. You're not going to do it. But protect your backup. Nobody and They've destroyed that kid's confidence, and that's coaching. That's just bad coaching on their part.
You know, I was listening to you say that, and I started thinking about, remember that game last year? The Browns threw DTR out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yes.
said after that game, I said, he needs to be on the couch. He needs deep, intensive, inpatient therapy. What they put him through. I don't even think he's playing in the league right now. So to your point, and you would expect more from both the coach, you know, his staff, and actually Jake Browning. Like there's something distinctly different about what they're doing this year. And I just I don't get it. It should, to me, they should not have looked that bad. They look terrible.
No, not at all, not at all. But the thing is, they don't run the football and whatnot. When you got backup, you got to at least rely on a running game and whatnot. So I don't get that, and that's bad
All right.
coaching.
It is. Well, you know what? We're just getting started because then we have let's move on to what, Chris, take over. It's time to talk about Baltimore. Go ahead, please take over. I'm not even gonna say. Go ahead.
Okay, well, the
One
thing
and three,
about
by
the
the way.
1-3. The Ravens are 1-3. They do not resemble in any way the Super Bowl contender they were last year or that they're supposed to be this year. In their defense, in their defense, and on defense, they have a lot of injuries. Like I said, you know, the defense of the, the defensive line is gone. Lamar Jackson is not playing because of a hamstring and won't play. For Nnamdi Madubuike is out for the season and perhaps his career because of a neck injury and whatnot. He was an up and coming guy in their run stop defense. And like I say, also Kyle Hamilton is out. And like I said, Kyle Van Noy is out. I mean, a lot of guys are just out, and Roquan
They
Smith
are.
is still out. Marlon Humphreys is out. Chidobe Awuzie is out. Travis, Ronnie Stanley is out with an ankle. Devontae Walker with a little oblique strain. Nate Wiggins has an elbow injury, and who returned back to practice. Also, this is a mess John Harbaugh has to clean up. This is a mess of a team that Harbaugh has done it before, and I'm gonna say that. But a lot of people in Baltimore are calling for his head. A lot of people are calling for Zach Orr, the defensive coordinator's head. They're calling for his head because his defense is allowing over 400 yards a game. Okay, so they've got to do something. The Ravens have done it
About
before
that.
in the past, and they've done it. I mean, this is a team that won a Super Bowl after firing their offensive coordinator back in 2012, and they've got to. Harbaugh this is the latest mess that he
It
has to
is.
clean up for this team. And at the end of the day, it's all on him because this isn't because a lot of fans want him out. I had a
Right.
friend. I had a friend screaming at me on texting, talking about they gotta fire Harbaugh. Harbaugh is not a good coach. But here's the question though: when people say that, who do you
Uh-huh.
replace him with? Who and do you fire him in the middle of the season? No. Okay.
He- Here
Y'all
is
can
the
have
thing, though.
Stefanski. You want Kevin
Uh,
Stefanski? You can have
oh no,
Stefanski.
we're gonna
Nah.
get to that. The last team, I promise. We're gonna get to it. I swear. I swear. Let's focus real quick though on that loss though to Kansas City because you asked me, they look like a shell of themselves. They looked uncomfortable at
They
times
did.
and
They
and that
absolutely
game.
did.
Like watching, and I know it's Kansas City. I know, like we understand. Mahomes in his career only lost once ever to Baltimore. Obviously, they are the more superior team. But the fact that they've gone against each other that many times, the Baltimore winning there, they didn't even look like they were trying to win. They were out there looking as though just to see if they can keep it close. That's really what it felt like. I was surprised on that interception. I was surprised on that fumble when sacked. They going out there and look like a shell of themselves. Lamar did not look like himself. I know obviously the injury coming and everything, but I mean even before that, The team looked out of step. There was a lack of cohesion. And when I saw that early on, I said, oh, this is going to be a long game. And it was. Kansas City toyed with them however, wherever way they felt like it. You're telling me this same team who struggled early on, 0-2 record, we knew they would bounce back, but I thought there would be a bigger, a better fight. Why are you allowing them to get 17 in the second quarter alone? Mahomes nearly going out for 304 scores. The fact
Well,
that of those 4 scores came off of 4 different targets as well too. They toyed with this Baltimore defense. However, they felt like it. That was
yeah,
Mm.
not the same Ravens team that I felt I've watched the last couple of seasons. That's not the same Ravens team that time and time again, multiple people have come up to me and say, nah, they can win it, man. It can't be the same team that hosted Kansas City in the AFC Championship game 2 seasons back. That can't be. So I'm worried
no,
about this team. And not just because of their record, but because of what I saw even in the first half of that game right there versus Kansas City. That can't be the same team we're talking about. Hey, they can make a run. That can't
Lamar
be.
had no confidence
Sapphire?
in himself. Go ahead, Sapphire.
I mean, I think both of you said it very well, and I'm not trying to make any excuses, but when you think about these injuries, the players, Jackson obviously went out, but you got your left tackle Stanley, Ricard, Roquan Smith, Nate Wiggins, Humphrey, like at a certain point, you gotta acknowledge that you're not functioning on all cylinders. And this is the NFL, you know. There's a reason why the Ravens are great, right? But they're not functioning with all of their pieces. So it's hard. Nobody wants to hear that. You always hear these next man up and blah, 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 blah. But that it just doesn't happen in the NFL. The Ravens are decimated by
Right.
injuries. That's it.
Abs-
That's where the whole thing starts and
abs-
stops with me.
because I'm gonna tell you, Sapphire and Irie, this is what I noticed in that game. This is what I've noticed since the Buffalo game. Is that they're not looking. The line is Lamar doesn't look comfortable in that passing game. Like the last 2 seasons, Lamar, was looking comfortable. Felt like he had the world at his shoulders. He could do whatever he wants. When he came out in that game Saturday, and I was kind of watching that game in the press box at Citizens Bank Park. I was watching that game. I says Lamar. I was watching the passing, and it was just it was like this hesitation, like he didn't know what to do with the ball. And for some reason, I don't know why Todd Monken, that Steve Spagnuolo is going to send every blitz in the world. Why in heaven's name? I don't want to start cursing or anything, but why in heaven's name that
I'm with
you
you.
did not adjust and they made no adjustments to the blitz, didn't try to run the football. And, Todd Monken was, in his press conference was told today that he felt that Harbaugh was right. They have got to, this is where coaching has to come in. If Harbaugh is the CEO and all that, well, his chief executives, his CEOs, namely Zach Orr and Todd Monken, they have got to do some strategy, taking with the players that they got. They're going to bring in Cooper Rush. They're going to bring him into the game. Don't beat Cincinnati. Shape the offense around what this guy does well. Get guys involved. Let them help him out. Kind of like, dare I say, what the Steelers did with the young Ben Roethlisberger back in the day. I mean, when you got to back up. Yeah, see, I can be fair every now and then and all that with Pittsburgh, but the thing is, you can't coach him in the way that you did for Lamar while he was out. They've got guys at the skill position who's still there. And like I said, when these guys get Patrick Ricard, they didn't try to throw the ball to Isaiah Likely at all. Not at all.
But it's like, and I'll say this. I mean, I think we as fans, and I can't speak for you professional sports writers, reporters, and I mean that with respect. But as fans, we watch the game, just like a timing and a rhythm that we see players have with each other, quarterbacks to running backs to wide receivers to tight ends, even on the defensive side. And again, I'm not trying to make any excuses, but the Ravens just look completely out of sync. And for me, you can't really have these many different pieces and expect there to be continuity. And I actually think it may benefit them to start Cooper Rush next week.
Right.
Because then that gives, because I can't remember when the bye is, but that could give Lamar Jackson some time to heal and for the coaching staff to reconfigure, like you're saying, right?
Mhm.
I
Right.
mean, I just it did. I don't think we can
You know what? It's so
overstate the
funny
importance
that
of.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to close and say you can't
I
overstate the
agree. I
importance
know.
of
I was
chemistry. Go ahead, honey.
Thank you for that. I was just going to mention, and I'm sorry, it was my thing was catching up as you were talking, so I didn't know that you were still talking. Forgive me. You had mentioned the bye week. I actually was looking at ahead of us talking. Their bye week is week 7, and when looking at their some of their games, their matchups after the bye week, I say more favorable. You got Miami, you got Cleveland again, you got Cincinnati twice, you got the Jets. Minnesota's a wild card, a young New England team, Chicago, who knows? Like there are some favorable matchups, I think, for them after the bye week. It's just about getting through these next couple of weeks versus Houston
Right.
and the Rams. Two perennial playoff teams usually. So I just wanted to add that in there. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, final 14, final 15 minutes. I think we've left enough for none other than team in Northeast Ohio. Sapphire's favorite. As you can tell by that laugh, she's been
Because
ready to talk about
my
this.
watch just started. You know, the one that checks your vitals. It just started vibrating. This is how these people get me worked up down the street. The
Look,
mere mention, my watch is like, take a deep breath, breathe in, hold it, and breathe out. I can't make this up.
look.
Um,
Let's start off simple with this. Okay, first off, Browns got whooped by the Detroit Lions in Detroit, 34-10. I was
Uh-huh.
there. It was not pretty. It was hard to watch. I literally feel like I was watching some Disney Channel type stuff happening. By each giveaway, the Lions were celebrating. By each phenomenal play, the Khalif Raymond 65-yard punt return to the end zone, giving the ball to his wife in the end zone, giving her a kiss. That to the multiple dances and belly flopping on the football, celebrating, all that happened. And you know what? I was laughing too. I was laughing too for a moment. I wasn't proud of it, but I had to laugh too in that. I had to laugh too. But all of that led to saying, you know what, we need a fresh start because when people think about it, I think people forget 2024 the Browns had a week 10 bye week, and they were 2-7 by that bye week. This year is a week 9 bye week. At this point, it's looking like hey, they might match that win total at best. But Skipper's fans say, you know what, let's make a change. So they announced early Wednesday morning, and I think the writing was on the wall as far as them making a change to the corporate position. Dylan Gabriel was starting. That's coming Sunday, and the game in London versus the Minnesota Vikings. That's right, Minnesota stays in the UK. The Browns travel. They play in London, England. Gabriel is starting. Flacco is QB2. None other than your favorite person to talk about, favorite backup to talk about. Shador Sanders is still listed as the third stringer. All right. Dylan Gabriel, Sapphire, dots.
I'm going to say an extra prayer
Oh no. See, I'm thinking like
for Dylan
analyst or
Gabriel.
something critique,
Mm-mm, mm-mm,
not a
mm-mm,
now,
Hail Mary,
mm-mm, mm-mm.
literally.
Nomine Padre, Padre,
Oh,
Espili,
come on.
Espiritu Santos. Amen. I'm Catholic, so I have to give the Latin blessing and whatnot.
Okay. Okay. Because I'm going to tell you something. You guys know how I am about the prototypical sort of features, if you will, of NFL quarterbacks. He reminds me in his stature so much of Johnny Manziel. He is so petite. And I worry about that because, yeah, he showed some flicks of whatever in preseason, but this is prime time. And with the weakness of our O line, in particular, our front three getting blown away, I just don't understand how. I don't want to push any negative out there, but I just don't understand why he's starting. I'm going to tell you right now. I was thinking that they would start Shador. I really was. So, and why he is listed at QB3, it's confusing because if
I'll tell you
Dylan
why in a
goes
minute.
out, yeah, no, I want you to bring that because if Dylan goes down, what are they going to do? Go back to Joe Flacco? And if they do, what does that mean? Like I'm so confused again by what they're doing, but I'm very concerned for him as like I was DTR last year.
Okay. Well, how I look at this and everything. First of all, y'all remember Jeff Fisher and Vince Young,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know when the Titans drafted, Vince Young, that came from Bud Adams because Jeff Fisher and I forgot the offensive coordinator that was there. They did not want Vince Young.
Was that
They did not
Phillips?
want him. Okay. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times when the coach Jeff Fisher and I forgot his name of his offensive coordinator at the time.
You forgot the name,
They
but yeah,
did
but when
not.
they usually,
Yeah, they did not want him. And with respect to Shador Sanders, they did not want, Stefanski and his coaching staff did not want Shador Sanders. I think the league insisted that they draft Sanders just to show Deion Sanders up and all that. And it's if everybody talked about Shador Sanders, did not wanting to go to Baltimore. I think something. I think that might have benefited him in retro. And I understand he wants to be a starting quarterback, but who knows? In the position he's in, he would be in a better position in Baltimore
Yeah.
than he would have in Cleveland.
Well,
But and my thing at the end of the day, I liked how
uh,
Shador
mhm.
kind of mouthed the words and didn't say anything about that situation.
Oh,
And I'm not mad at him for doing that. But Ivory, I do have a question for you, just in
yes,
terms
yes,
of this whole thing when the Browns lost to the Lions. Was the food good in the
it's
press
so
box?
sad. He's such a hater. This is him throwing daggers again because your
oh,
team is 1-3 too. Let me go back and say this. It was Norm
okay,
Chow.
Norm
Okay.
Chow. That's
That
that's
was
exact.
that was the
That was
OC.
Norm Chow, and yeah, they did not want that guy there. The
right.
Browns did not want Shador Sanders there.
Well,
They do
I
real
don't
not
quick.
want him there
I don't know
now.
that you could say the Browns. I don't
Well,
know that you could say the Browns did not want him.
here's the problem though, and I too can have a part in it. I too can be guilty of it. Probably, I don't think so, but maybe it's somewhere on the internet. My record will show it differently. It is on us to focus on what the story is. The story right now is not Shador Sanders. It's them making the change to start Dylan Gabriel.
Mhm. Preach.
Shador has Shador's QB3. For better or worse, that's what it is. We don't know what happened behind the scenes. We don't know. That's why you have 1,000 conspiracy theories and counting as to what really happened, why he fell, why he's in Cleveland, why he's not playing, so and so. All we've seen from him is at least those with credentials, his practices during training camp, and of course the whole nation saw the 2 preseason games. That's it. For now, they think Gabriel is their guy. And not just that, but that's what they said back in April after they drafted him. They say he's a really, really good, really strong prospect of theirs. And right now I see it. He's a system guy. He fits the fancy system, or at least follows it to a T, at least from what we saw in preseason, right? West Coast offense, the bootleg, quick passes, sharp. You go back to that game versus Philly. Chris, you and I were there. Completed 8 of 9 for around, 73 yards in that first quarter? Obviously, before the pick. But I mean, you don't have to say right now, Gabriel is the story. He is starting.
Right.
And the question right now for us to answer is if we think that is the right move, because they obviously did not see fit with Flacco being the one to lead them to wins. So now it's Gabriel's time to do so, especially early on, because he's on one side about coaching for your job. That's what Stefanski is doing right now, and I would do the same thing. And I even
Right.
mentioned that in my comments about that. So, Sapphire, is Gabriel the guy that can lead them to more than their 3 wins last year?
I'm
Can
going to
is that applicable with him in the position?
I honestly am so subjective when it comes to the Browns because they have me confused and my mind twisted. But I'm going to say no. Look, is he 5'10" with cleats on? You're going up against a Flores defense, the mug looks, the head games that he plays with quarterbacks, the constant pressure, the different places on the defensive side that he brings the blitzes from that result in the quarterbacks having to speed up their decision making process. And we had a rookie in there that really hasn't consistently played first team. Like it's a formula for disaster, just like DTR was last year.
The
And I'm
decision.
telling, go
Go
ahead.
ahead, please.
And I'm saying Stefanski or whoever needs to have a come to Jesus conversation with that offensive line
I
and say
think.
whatever. Go ahead.
No, no, no. I'm sorry. Please go ahead. Go ahead.
No,
My
I'm saying like a rally cap. Your sole assignment is to make sure Dylan Gabriel walks off the field with a uniform looking as clean as it was before he walked onto the field. That's their sole assignment because this is not an average defense. Like he could really he's vulnerable.
correct. Thank you. My apologies on the on interruptions. Thank you for finishing out that terrific point. That is a problem, and that is totally understandable because I don't think there's much trust amongst fans in swing tackle Cornelius Lucas in particular to protect Dylan Gabriel, who leads all teammates right now. I think all blockers in the NFL and quarterback pass rushes allowed at 28 per PFF. That is. Even within the
Exactly.
eye test alone, that old tackle position has been depleted. Dewan is out. Conklin is
Mhm,
still day to day. Who knows what's happening with that right elbow? So you have to depend on Lucas, KT Leviston. That's a period, point blank. But also, if there's a way in which there can be cohesion found between Gabriel and this receiving corps, because the drops have been noticeable and visible and despicable and all the other cabals words that you could use, all those that end in those terms. The
Caballs.
cohesion is the number one. Exactly. The cohesion is the most important aspect that you hope can back because that's what was needed. A fresh start. You think about it, Flacco was not fit. The lack of mobility between the old line being depleted and not blocking for him on time at the same time, Flacco was unable to move. The multiple times that we mentioned of those short runs, that 4 yard run in week one versus Cincinnati in the second half, you would have thought he got 10 with all the effort that might he put
mhm,
into that run.
mhm,
And on top of
mhm,
that, Cleveland currently sits in a 4-way tie in turnovers. All
mhm,
8 accounted for, the root of those by Joe Flacco. They're hoping
mhm.
that Dylan Gabriel doesn't mess that up. You ask me, I think he can survive as long as he does not give the ball to the other team. That's it. If he doesn't do that, I think he'll be all right, at least for the time being, up until the bye week. I'll set it at that. You ask me,
Okay.
they can win a game or two. Matter of fact, if he gets through these next 2 weeks, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, win or lose, he can get through Miami and New England, and I'll guarantee he'll even win. He'll even lead them to a win within that stretch right there within Miami, New England. I don't see it happening in the next 2 weeks versus Minnesota and Pittsburgh, but the 2 weeks after that, ahead of the bye week, I see that possible if he can get through these 2 weeks. But
I
that's
pray
me
it's
though,
so.
Chris.
I
I'm
pray
sorry.
it's so, YG.
I have a question. So if Dylan Gabriel is messing up and he can't move the team, do they throw in Shador? And what should they do with Shador at the end of the season?
You
I
know
don't.
what?
I don't even know if they're going to wait to the end of the season. YG, what do you think?
I'm unsure on that either. And trust me, and I was gonna mention too, like it's so much deeper when you see of them putting Flacco at QB2 because it makes you really
Mhm.
wonder about the. And this is aside from Shador, the full decision making and the planning they have for the future at this position, because I don't know what they're doing, and
Go
nobody
ahead,
does
finish.
it.
Go ahead and spill the tea that everybody else knows.
They
Just
don't
speak
know what they're
on it.
doing
They
either.
don't know. No, I don't think they know what they're doing. Like you were talking about
Okay.
Zach Taylor earlier, Chris. Stefanski does as much within that conversation. There's nobody that he can scapegoat no more. You
Right.
got Van Pelt out the way. Dorsey is out. No
Unless
OC wanted to come to Cleveland. You had to hire in-house for Tommy Rees. Nobody wants to work with you. At least that's what is implied. So this is
Mhm.
all we know on you now. You call the plays. It goes down or up, however you feel like it.
And y'all have to remember that they traded down in that first round for the number 5. They gave up the number 2 for what next season? A couple of first round draft picks. We don't know, as you talk about delusional, we don't know what the Sam Hill is going on down that street.
But you
And
know
I
what
mean,
though?
mhm.
Go ahead, Sapphire. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That
No,
last
no,
thought.
no,
Go ahead.
because think about what would be the reason to put him at QB3 for this game coming up. You've given Joe Flacco a month to demonstrate his competencies, and we know what that looked like. But you're still going to keep him at QB2, and then couple that with their draft jockeying. Like it just reeks of a longer term plan for this team. And I just at this point I am a huge Shador Sanders fan. I don't care pantomiming. It doesn't matter. He actually did Dylan Gabriel a favor by drawing all of that attention to him instead of
Exactly.
it being on
That's
Dylan
true.
Gabriel for this week. Okay, it was nothing.
Exactly.
He's young. You know he that's how young people get that. What does that have to do? People are trying to dictate to him how he should live. The decision. Look, he's a grown man, right? So it
Exactly.
takes away from the fact that the Cleveland Browns are consistently letting down and breaking the hearts of their fandom with this nonsense.
As we come.
And if I'm Shador, I want out of that situation. I want
Yes.
out of it.
Yes.
I will want out because that is a dysfunctional
Yes, it is.
situation.
Yes, it is. Yes,
And
it
when
is.
you're a player, and I don't care what the motives are about taking him there, we don't know. But if I'm him, he's done. I gotta say, and you all can back me up on this. Hasn't he done his due diligence? Has he not done the things? People try to say that I read social media. Don't ever go by social media comments
Oh
because
no.
fans, some of these fans don't know anything. But
No.
and the thing is that he's been a professional about this the entire time. There was no messing around, all the stuff that they accused him of. He's been a professional. Even when he stuck up the joint in preseason, he took it like a man and all that. And I just think that maybe he can, maybe he might consider Baltimore. He might consider the Jets or somebody, but he's got to be in a situation where somebody's going to be committed to his development.
Here's the thing, and thank you both for your terrific points and perspectives. I like to close this out as we come down the final minute of the show. Here's my thing with Shador. I'm okay with him not playing right now. Number one, as far as I'm
Mhm.
keeping him at QB3, you'd have to ask Kevin Stefanski. But then again, it'd be a waste of time because he's not going to give you anything with the stone cold ass face expression, even though it's not working. He tries to be Belichick, I guess. So that's for a different day. However, I don't mind him not playing Shador right now. Number one,
Mhm.
Cleveland knows, like, I pretty knows what it is. He's a people's champ. You see more jerseys with the number 12 on the back than any other jersey in that stadium during their home games. Number two, he's bringing in money. They're using him. And for revenue. You go to NFL Team Shop on their website, the Cleveland Browns website, more likely than not, you're going to see him pictured there sporting something. Because that's who the kids look up to, admire, and want to be like. And lastly, regarding Shador and the playing time, just be ready. Be ready because his number is going to get called, guys.
Yep,
I
you
understand
know
Flacco
that.
being a kid.
You know
His
that.
number is going to get called, so he has to be ready.
And I
It's
hope it's after Kevin Stefanski accepts his parachute payment
uh,
and moves on
uh,
out of town. I would
maybe
not want to see him playing with Kevin Stefanski calling the
I,
plays. I'm just with all due respect, don't wish anybody bad.
I
Please, thank you so much for your 7 years here. Here's your paycheck. Please move
I
on down the line.
I understand that, but this is
Uh,
what I'm saying though.
but he has to be ready
The,
when it's time.
all the attention was on Flacco. They said he's the best quarterback to ring it. He looked despicable. He looked bad in that. Now it's
Mhm.
on Gabriel, the guy that the own coaches of the Cleveland Browns thought was better quarterback than Shador already. and a bunch of the other guys that they decided not to draft. They took Gabriel at the end of day 2. I was there that night. They took him. That's their guy. All the pressure's on him. If he doesn't do well, then it gets to a point where even if they put Flacco back in, who I don't expect to do well this season, even after all that, at some point it's going to crumble, and you have to give Shador a chance. You ask me, and this is hopefully the last point of the show. It's all about ego. Because if I'm a coach and everybody on the outside is telling me that the savior of my team is this young guy, this young kid right here, it really Shador, I too will probably try to do everything to show that no, we don't need him. It's not against the skill, but I don't have to succumb to that, to say my team. We can win without him right now. And that's all that we're seeing. But if you ask me, it's going to get down to the point where they have to give him a chance. And that will give us a lot to talk about. All right, we've definitely gone a little bit overboard. But thank you all for staying with us tonight. This is the Locker Room Readout, Fear the North. A lot to dive into. I am Irie Harris. That's Sapphire Blue. Murray. Sapphire, want to take us out?
All right.
I'll let you take us out.
Ciao.
Francesco.
Yeah. Later, y'all.